Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 31 of Deep. But wait, but wait. Today, we're not doing that. We're not doing Deep in the Novo today. We're doing, what do you think? Beck in the Novo? Chris in the Novo? What do you think here? Chris Becker joining us here, joining Ryan Novozinski, as our own Siddip Tuma is having eye surgery right now. So we wish him the best of luck. But Chris, what are you thinking, my man? What is the new nickname going to be?
I'm no deep, but I think Beck and the Novo we can just go with. I think 4 letter. It's still 4 letters. It's close
Mhm.
enough.
That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. So Chris, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? We can't have some random stranger be on here. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a writer for the Ocali, write football and basketball. Good friend of Ryan's, good friend of Deep's, and so it's good to be on this show. I've listened to be recorded multiple times. I've sat in the room with them when they recorded it multiple times, and it's good to finally be here.
That's what I'm saying, baby. Chris Becker was there all along. He was our digital editor this past semester, and he's our tip top reporter for some of these sports. So that's good stuff. And Chris, you probably know him if you follow all of our coverage. You probably know Mr. Becker from some of these post game videos, specifically the post game video last night, in talking about the OSU's 83-78 victory over Oral Roberts. Now, Chris, let's talk about some of the things that sticks out to me, at least in this game. First and foremost, the elephant in the room, OSU's, I guess, what do we call it? Their inability, or I guess we can say inability to have a high performance game against Oral Roberts. What is happening? Is it the rivalry? Is this the real rivalry in the state?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like every year we play them, it's right there. They're right neck and neck with Oklahoma State. Last year was what, like a 5-point game,
Mm-hmm.
and this year was a close game all along. Oral Roberts led for 10 minutes of this game, so it was Oral Roberts is a tough opponent, and Pat Wells has that program. He's got it rolling.
Yeah, he certainly does, and yeah, I know Coach Boynton congratulated him after the game, and rightfully so. You can sort of respect somebody who's kicking the crap out of you, and obviously not to the extent of getting a victory over OSU, but you got to think one of these years when this rivalry is renewed, maybe he'll get it done, and but that also coincides with the program that Mike Boynton is building here at OSU. So you never know. Just good basketball happening all around the state of Oklahoma. But let's talk about specifically what ORU was able to do against OSU last night, because defensively, especially in the first half, I will say in the second half got better, but defensively on the perimeter, OSU could not shut this team down. I mean, just look at the statistics alone. You look at 16 for 33 from 3-point land for ORU, right? You look at 48.5 percent shooting from them. And this Max Abmas kid, he is out. He's incredible. He shot the gym out yesterday, scoring 36 points for ORU. What did you see from this team, Chris, that stood out to you as being impressive?
Yeah, this is 2 games in a row, not weeks, 2 games in a row that OSU's allowed their opponent to shoot lights out from three. Not really allowed, might not be the right word, but their opponent has shot over 45% from three 2 games in a row now. Oakland and then Oral Roberts, and these two teams are real high shooting, high clip teams. They'll shoot at a high clip. They're, for lack of a better comparison, they're like the Warriors. They don't shy away from shooting threes at all. Not as good, obviously, different caliber of teams, but that kind of offensive mentality. And Max Abmas, you have confidence when you're pulling up from the O and OSU and still knocking them down at a high clip. There's not much they could do about Max Abmas. But the other ones, Rondell Walker, I know, talked about it after the game. He's like, they're two different stories. At Oakland, they were just making him, when contested, uncontested, they were making everything. Again, last night against ORU, they struggled switching. They struggled with, they played a little too far off ball at some point, trying to cover the paint, and they made them pay for it.
Sure.
ORU's a team that you can't do that with, and they felt the consequences.
Yeah, and there was times, I mean, I looked at it, ORU was able to not only out from 3-point land, people talk about the shooting all game long, but my goodness, they were able to penetrate inside too. They were able to get some of these passes through those holes in the OSU defense, right? They were able to attack that way. and really pressure OSU down low. But I mean, overall, when you look at it from a holistic standpoint, yeah, this ORU attack was interesting from an offensive perspective. But OSU is still able to get it done and play, some solid defense. I feel like in the second half really was where it stood out to me. You look at what Bryce Williams was able to do on defense in the second half. You look at what heck you talk about Rondell. Rondell was able to do on defense in the second half, and then I mean, what can you say about Cade Cunningham that hasn't already been said? Am I right?
Yeah, like Cade Cunningham's Cade Cunningham. He'll do his thing night in, night out. It's the other ones that you really have to, that could, surprise us any given night. But Cade Cunningham, he's going to be out there. He's going to be consistent. He's shown it already that, he's shown why he was the number one recruit in the nation.
Of course, and showing further and further why he might be the number one draft pick in the NBA draft, right? And when you
Yeah.
look at him from a defensive standpoint too, let's start with OSU's defense last night, right? Played a lot of man, some zone for here and there, but most of all, I feel like I saw man out there. What would you say stood out to you from an attack standpoint? In terms of just their aggressiveness, because one of the things that Eve and I talk about all the time is just high motor from this OSU team, you can look at that from whether you look at some of the press they do, some of the like when they play man and the switches and the help defense, it improved a lot in the second half. And like you said, in that first half, I didn't see quite a bit of that at all.
No, the first half. This has been you got to think about it. There's been a theme for this Oklahoma State team so far. Those first half defensive struggles or first half struggles in general.
Mm-hmm.
Every single game's been close to halftime, or trailing. They trailed Marquette at half. But in the second half, they just turn everything on, and it's crazy. It's the tale of two teams, and they're a good thing that it's a second half team and not a first half team where they shut it down second half. But yeah, you mentioned high motor. I couldn't tell you the number of times last night on the ESPN Plus broadcast that they mentioned M.A. Moncrief and high motor in the same sentence.
Literally, right?
He's the definition of a high motor guy, and on both sides of the court, but defense especially. Him, Rondell, Bryce Williams, they all, super aggressive. They're not afraid to go in and try to get the steal and possibly get a reach in call or Boynton talked about after the game. He felt like Rondell had more than the two steals that he was credited with,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I felt like that too. Watching the game, Rondell is everywhere on that court. And he's quick, he's jumpy. He's everywhere. He's not afraid to run in, go down low and guard a guy, guard him on the perimeter. This team's really good defensively. And you mentioned the switch between man and zone. The last two games, they played a lot of man and not a lot of zone.
Sure.
But the zone won them the game against Marquette.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you can point out and get Marquette. That's what shut Marquette down. So it's just a game by game thing. But if you can play two defenses well,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a pretty good way to look at it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. The zone is what won them that Marquette game. You look at anything that was written afterwards, right? You look at the game as it stands as a whole, right? You can see that everybody and their mother was pointing to that zone defense as the sole reason they beat Marquette, who, by the way, the next game out went and beat the number 4 Wisconsin Badgers. So that's an impressive team to do it against. So I mean, maybe it's a scheming thing, maybe. Whatever Mike Boynton saw against ORU. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to see a lot more of that because I think when you look at this OSU team, the way that we talk about their motor, right? And I think it's not just Moncrief. I think it's everybody. I think a lot of these players have that motor where they also have, in addition to that motor, they have I don't know what it is, if it's like a mob mentality or what it is. It's just good teamwork, right? Where they're able to move as one unit. It almost looks like a Syracuse zone out there, right? Where they can move as that one unit. And that's what you need. You need movements left and right, shifts in a zone for it to be effective. And OSU is able to do that. So I'd like to see it more. And obviously their man is fine. It's really good, actually. But man, defense is just this team's identity, and they were really able to pick it up in the second half. I will say that.
Oh yeah, no, the defense. This is what's going to win. This is what the defense is going to want. Wins its team games. They can shoot the ball well. They can score points on the offensive end, but it's the defense that's going to end up carrying this team as far as they can go. And you mentioned this, the identity of defense. Coach Boynton said last night after the game, he's like, defense isn't written on the back of our shorts because it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that, I was like, yeah, it's true. He mentioned Henry Iba, Eddie Sutton, and just how Oklahoma State's always been this defensive program.
That's a classic Chris line, man. Tell you what, that is a classic. Chris loves that stuff.
Oh, I love it. But, it you mentioned the pack thing. I was thinking about it last night actually when, now that you say that, I I like was thinking this team looks like, like a pack of wolves almost.
Hmm.
They're always moving as one unit. They're never like it seems like they're so cohesive, and it doesn't seem like a whole bunch of freshmen out on the court. This seems like a veteran Oklahoma State team that has been together for years. But in all honesty, these guys have played together for 5 games.
It's so
I
fun to watch.
yeah,
It
incredible.
It's so fun to watch, right? When you look at a team, even if you're not a basketball fan, but you look at a defense out there that's moving, all as one unit or whatever. It looks so cool because and it shows it proves on the scoreboard that OSU is able to win these games. There's a reason they're undefeated, and I think a lot of that is because of the defense. A lot of that also is because of this high-powered offense and what they're able to do with that dribble drive penetration. But we'll get into that in a second. But my goodness, just this defense as a whole, I cannot be more impressed with it. But switching gears too, something that goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand in football, but it also definitely goes hand in hand in basketball because you're going from one possession to another, just like this, right? And you go in transition. This defense sets up that offensive transition for this team, right?
Oh,
Because they're able to score fast. They're able to score in creative ways. What I saw last night was a lack of assist. Obviously, it proved on the scoreboard there and the stat lines with, excuse me, just I believe 9 assists in the entire game. But my goodness, it also was just a lot of I don't even know what like out there. A lot of ISO, a lot of in the first half, a lot of confusion out there. It looked like a little bit, but man, when OSU figures it out, they figure it out. And
oh
when you
yeah.
have guys like Caleb Boone rather improving, when you have Cade Cunningham with his career high night, when you have Matthew Alexander Moncrief finally scoring high numbers again, you have a really strong offensive attack. Chris, what did you see from the offense last night that stuck out to you?
Yeah, they're spreading around the scoring, which is really good. When you have a guy like Kate Cunningham and you see when like a person outside the basketball world looks at that and like, oh, they have the number one recruit, the best player, best freshman in the country. He's gonna be the star. He's gonna score all these points, and no one else is really gonna get the love. But yeah, Cade's gonna score his 20 points, his 18 to 20 points, or 29 as it was last night. But these other guys are gonna score too. They have 5 guys averaging 8+ points,
Yeah.
and that's huge. When you have that many guys who can score the ball and score consistency or consistently, that's gonna be a good day. They had 44 points in the paint, and you mentioned Caleb Boone. He's a big part of that. You
Yeah.
know, he's not scoring a whole bunch of points, but he's a paint presence, and that's a big thing to have, especially for such a small team. Uh, Small in the sense of they don't have like a big center.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh
you know,
no, they have
Cade
that
Cunningham,
point guard named Cade Cunningham who's 6'8".
yeah,
That's it.
Cade Cunningham 6'8", so he's big, but he's not a
Oh, I know.
Duke as a bouquet per se. Who thankfully is no longer at Kansas. But lots of at the rim scoring. You mentioned the dribble drive penetration. That's what MA makes his living on, and he
Yeah.
scored 15 points off of it last night. You
Mhm.
the behind the back stuff, and they draw fouls all the
Yeah,
time.
they do. No,
Marquette
they
had
do.
or you had 23 fouls last night,
Mhm.
which is I mean that's huge. When you
Look,
can get to the free throw line, free throws are going to win you the game.
yeah, and it goes hand in hand with like you said, that dribble drive penetration and just
Mhm.
attacking inside with what Mam's able to do down there, with what Cade Cunningham's able to do down there, with what Isaac Likely, who my
Yeah.
goodness is not a small guy, but the way he's able to drive inside just continuously impresses me and impresses me. Um, and my goodness, I just love when Cade will feed Caleb Boone, right? I think that
Oh
relationship's
yeah.
going to be great. That connection's going to be great this year. Especially, Caleb Boone in the pick and rolls, I think is great too. Um, and when he's able to feed him down low, feed him inside. I think there was one where he almost had like a sort of hook shot type of deal, Caleb Boone. And it was, I believe it might have been an and one. And like you said, the drawing
Right.
fouls is perfect because this team is getting better at shooting free throws, right? Getting better at shooting those and one opportunities. And they're getting it done. They're really getting it done. So I liked what this team did on the offense last night. I think, you know, when you have Cade Cunningham scoring all over the floor, that's when he's going to have those kind of career nights where he scores his career
Right.
high. When you have him driving inside, right? When you have him, show his versatility, show his adaptability by scoring outside, inside, from the mid range, right? And then just his playmaking abilities too is off the charts. So yeah, I think that's what you get from this OSU offense, and I think this OSU offense is going to feast all season.
Yeah, but Ryan, you said Cade shooting outside, inside. I thought he wasn't a shooter though.
Oh, you know what? You're right, man. And Sadiq loves to dispel the rumor that Cade is not a shooter, but because he's not here, we can say to everybody, Cade is not a shooter. No, I'm being completely sarcastic, okay?
Yeah,
I'm being
exactly.
completely sarcastic. Cade Cunningham is a shooter. Believe it, ladies and gentlemen. Not
He's
only
putting
is
it
Cade
on.
a shooter, but Cade is starting to make some of these other players shooters too. I truly believe that Cade Cunningham can and does have a jump shot. It just wasn't proven in high school that much because
He
he
didn't need
was
it.
so much better at driving inside.
Yeah, he did need it in high school. He's really dispelling this rumor, and he's. I think he took it personally, almost. Like a chip on his shoulder kind of thing. Where I mean, he went out against not against ORU, but against Oakland. He went out and his first four shots were all threes,
Sure.
and he made three
I
of them.
believe he had 3 last night.
Yeah, yeah. I think he had another. He had I think three in Oakland and three again last night. It's like he's not afraid to shoot the ball, but in high school he didn't need to shoot the ball. He
No,
was 6'8". He's so much bigger than everybody else. Why not just drive inside and get the 2 points and walk back on the other end of the floor, and play some defense?
you're
But
Kate Cunningham, baby. You can do it. You can do whatever
yeah,
you want out there.
in high school he was controlling the floor, but now he has to show a shot a little bit. He
Mhm.
showed he had a couple pull up jumpers last night. One from the left side that was down behind the basket almost.
Mhm.
He shot it almost over the backboard, and it was beautiful. He's almost showing off out there
He
of what
is.
he really is he's really capable of.
This isn't like a Giannis type situation. I know we say Giannis, and Giannis isn't a point guard, obviously, but a lot of people will look at Giannis and be like, "Oh no, he doesn't have a shot, and that's what's holding his game back, or that's the reason they're not advancing the playoffs." And I agree,
Right.
but what I don't agree with is that that Cade isn't a shooter, because this is not the same type of deal. Cade just didn't show it in high school because, as we said before, it was easier for him to drive inside in high school and be a playmaker down there. But now that he's showing it off, he's showing that he does have a shot, and he's showing his consistency there. And I think as the season goes along, you're going to see this ability of his jump shooting even more. And I think if you're an OSU fan, you're going to love that.
And what was it? 12 points in 91 seconds last night to end the game.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that takeover ability of his, and it's insane. Cade Cunningham's Cade Cunningham, and he's everything Oklahoma State fans were told that he was.
Sure. And I think the video last night for the highlights of what OSU posted was called Clutch Cade. And that's the truth. This is Clutch Cade. This is him showing off almost. Like it's really just another great stat line for Mr. Cunningham. And he's proving it time and time again why he's, probably one of the best, if not the best player in the country. And he's going to prove it all season long. Chris, let's talk a little bit more about Caleb Boone and Matthew Alexander Moncrief, because last night I feel, these are two guys actually that Sadiq and I have talked about this. Caleb Boone with foul trouble was so annoying in the beginning of the season because
Right.
he's so good, but he wasn't able to show it because he was never on the floor. So so Chris, now that he's able to stay out of foul trouble a little bit more, and he's able to show his abilities and showcase his abilities, he's proving to be,
Oh yeah.
excuse me, quite the threat in this team, right? Whether it's down low, whether it's you know, even from a mid-range standpoint, he's doing a great job there too. He's driving inside. He's being a good presence out there with just the pick and roll abilities. I think this guy is going to be a stud this season. What did you see from him last night that gives you confidence in that same thing?
Yeah, Caleb Boone's really improved. Him and his brother both. I think you told me we're gonna talk about Keelan a little later,
Oh
but
yeah, the
but
rebounding
Caleb. Oh
guy.
yeah, it's almost like the roles have been reversed. Caleb's more shooting outside, and Keelan's moved inside.
Yeah,
But Caleb's a and when you're left on the off season, I was a little worried of the OSU down like the OSU center game, and how are you gonna redo those like who's gonna rebound the ball, who's gonna play that center position, but and fill that void. But Caleb's doing it more. Your broke records at OSU in blocks, but Caleb's averaging
yeah,
1.2 blocks a game down low, which is all you can ask for him.
sure.
1.2 blocks is that's a pretty good number in college.
For a team that
And he's also
shouldn't have like that big man, like yeah, it's pretty darn good.
exactly, yeah. For a team who doesn't have a true center, yeah, that's really good. But 7.8 points a game, 4.8 rebounds. What more can you ask for him? I'm just glad he's on the court.
Mhm.
Like that's all I can ask. As long as he can stay on the court and can stay down there and take the pressure off of some of the other guys who may have to go down there and rebound when he's not there. I'm all for whatever he can give to the team.
Mhm. Yeah, no, me too. And yeah, he's definitely improving as the season goes along. We will see, these improvements, within these next couple of games too. But I really like what he was able to do against ORU. And let's talk about Matthew Alexander Moncrief and what he was able to do too. This is a guy, Chris, you love this guy. I know you do, because
I love him, eh?
we talk about high motor, but this guy is literally to shout out the Detroit Pistons jerseys. Okay, we're gonna give our friend Sudeep Stuma a shout out here. The Detroit Pistons jerseys, I believe, don't they say Motown or Motor City or something like that?
I think they say Motor City.
Well, if Matthew Alexander Moncrief, if and when he goes to the NBA, he needs to play for the Detroit Pistons, because the high motor of this guy, wow. I mean, this guy, he is relentless down low, right? And for a team, like we said, doesn't have a true center, he can do it all really. And I liked what I saw from him yesterday, and him showcasing his scoring abilities too was really impressive.
Yeah, we talked about the OSU dribble drive and dribble penetration and all that. He's the one who leads the way for that.
He does.
Ice does it, and K can do it too. They can both do it to a really good extent. But MA, that's his whole game. You mentioned Giannis earlier. Well, he mentioned Giannis last night and called
Yep.
him. He says the locker room called him Baby Giannis, which, if you look at him, he looks like Giannis. He's built almost like a lanky, tall. He's lanky. He's tall, athletic, and can score inside, which is all that Giannis does. And 8.4 points a game, that's solid. He's not scoring as much as Cade is, but he's having just as much of an impact on the team off the bench.
Sure.
Coming off the bench, he's having such a big impact on this team. And I think him and Caleb are both two stars in the making who they're going to do some pretty good things in those orange jerseys.
Oh my goodness, 100%. And you talked about Giannis. I mean, Baby Giannis was the greatest nickname I've ever heard. I think that was so cool. And believe me, I know nicknames, and that was a great nickname, because you look at him and what he's able to do down there, right? You talked about down low, his ability to down low, and you talked about his driving ability. I think you're right. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's only going to get better. The ceiling is super high for him. Mike Boynton talked about his prowess as a recruit coming in, and how he was a little bit undervalued because he was from Canada and just a different country, different recruiting system. And I think it's proving right now that he has that high ceiling. We talk the statistics might not back it up yet, but man, his impact is going to be felt here on out, because this OSU team, I guarantee you those stats are going to be bolstered quite a bit, because this Matthew Alexander Moncrief kid, Canada is proving to be one of the best countries for OSU. For Oklahoma as a whole, I think, you talk about SGA too. And Matthew Alexander Moncrief is just the next addition into that Canadian cowboy type of deal. So hats off to him.
Yeah, I think people are finally realizing, tapping into that Canadian recruiting circuit, and they're finding some diamonds in the rough here. And thankfully, Oklahoma State's been able to bring in a whole bunch of them, namely Chuba and MA. But the women's team has a couple. They all over the campus, all over the campus.
Yeah.
But the only thing that I can see from MA that really is improving is his defense is improving incredibly. Coach Boynton had concerns about it before the season.
Sure.
But his free throw shooting. If MA's such a great rim, he's such a great rim presence that he's gonna draw fouls when he goes in, because people are he's gonna score most of the time when he goes down there, and they're gonna just try to foul him and make sure he has to shoot from the free throw line twice. And if he keeps only knocking down 30%, 27% of something like that, why not foul him? If he's not going to make a
mat strategy, it seriously is. It's serious.
Yeah, exactly. He got it. If he can improve free throws, I think his offensive game is just right where Oklahoma State needs it to be.
Yeah, totally. They should just put him in a gym one day. Just lock him in there until you say, okay, you need to make, I don't know, 50 in a row, whatever the number may be, but just that muscle memory to improve those free throws. Maybe it's him, maturing into his body. Maybe he'll get there one day, but we will see, I guess. But my goodness, yeah, you're right. He does need to improve, those free throws. In addition to the defense, I think the defense, he's doing a really freaking good job. But he could always be better, and he's going to, with his motor, he's going to get it done. With his motor, I'm surprised he hasn't improved the free throw shooting already, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he seems like a guy who really works on stuff that, he's not happy with something, he works on it tough. I know that he, Farron, and Rondell all shot after the game. After everyone had went home, after no fans were left in the stand. they were all out shooting. So, maybe that's what he was working on last night. And I think it's going to improve as the season goes on. I think it's still him trying to like you said, grow into his body a little bit, or maybe adjust to the pressure. Shooting a free throw in a crowd in a college gym is a little different than a high school gym.
Sure.
It's kind of I think it's just an adjustment period for him, and I think he's taking a little longer to adjust, and maybe Kate is, or maybe or some of the other freshmen, Rondell, or all the some of those guys who played in big high profile high school circuits.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And it's a different atmosphere. You're right, especially during COVID. So you never know what will happen there. Chris, the final topic we're going to be talking about today is we talked about Caleb Boone. Let's talk about his brother, who for some reason, is the rebounding god on this team.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I that's a great question. I was asking myself the same thing last night when he led the team in rebounds.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier when we were talking about Caleb, it's like the roles have been reversed.
Yeah.
And Caleb's scoring more, but Keelan's getting more rebounds.
Yeah.
Which just seems odd. But Coach Boyd, it's not odd to Coach Boyd apparently, because Coach Boyd said that's what he does best.
Yeah, he's been doing this apparently all along.
Yeah, he's second the team to rebounds, only to ice, which is almost more surprising than Keelan being good at rebounds. But yeah, Keelan's averaging 7.8 rebounds a game, which if that's what it takes, then I'm off. I'm for it. Whoever steps up and whoever can get rebounds, they's got to get them, because like we've said, I think we've mentioned it so many times in this podcast that this team doesn't have big men.
Mm-hmm.
They have big men, quote unquote, with height, but they're not big and bulky like some true centers that they're gonna face in the Big 12.
No, of course.
So whoever can get rebounds, go for it. I guess they're gonna have to share the love there too.
Totally, and Keelan Boone. I mean, hats off to him. Like, this is another guy who's. I feel like if you're Keelan Boone and you're out there as a guard, almost second on the team in rebounding, second by the way to a guard, like you said, Isaac Likely. This just speaks to Mike Boynton and not only the culture he's built, but the system he's built here, right? And how he has these guys really prepared for anything. So I think this really is a Mike Boynton thing. Obviously, you got to give the credit to Keelan Boone, of course, because he's the one going out there and grabbing them. But I think Mike Boynton, and you can't say enough about him, but what he's been able to build here at OSU is the reason, Chris, that I would say that they're undefeated right now, and they might continue to be as the season goes along.
Mike Boynton's definitely he's turned this program around. He's built this culture of the let's work, or the commit to excellence. All these the new era. All these like mottos that this team has, and he's built it into the program. These guys bought into it, and they're rolling right now. 9 in a row dating back to last year, their last 4. Second year in a row starting off with 5-0. He's if last year could have been something special, but I think this year's it's even better. And hope if everyone can stay healthy and this team can stay together, and it's only up from here. And we got to remember they're still missing 2 players or 3. They're still missing 3 players basically. Montreal Planey is yet to suit up. Chris Harris got hurt in the first game, and then Avery Anderson's been out the last 2. So when these guys come back, that's even more depth for this team, and even more height, and more rebounding, and more everything.
Yeah.
Thinking about this team's not even to its full potential yet, it's scary to think about.
It totally is, and it's just going to get better. I think, once this team gets into Big 12 play, don't get it twisted. There will be losses, of course, right? As most basketball teams face here in and here out. But I think this team, as it stands for Mike Boynton, it stinks. It's the whole narrative where it's like, you never know what's going to happen with this appeal process and what'll happen with that. But I just think that this team is ready for something special this year, because they're improving, and they don't even have a full roster, as you said, Chris. So we will see what happens with Mike Boynton and company going forward.
You mentioned losses. I want to hear your thought on this, because I have my opinion. I think this team, we're going to really learn what this team's about after a loss almost. Once they face that adversity. So many freshmen on this team, so many young guys. How they're going to bounce back from a loss is really going to tell this team apart from teams of the past, or other teams in the league, other teams in the NCAA this year. And I think we're going to really know the true value of this team once they hit those bumps in the road.
Mm-hmm. Look, you look at it. I even saw this during the UT Arlington game. During last night, I saw it when this team is down against sort of a crappy team. Let's just be blunt with it. Um, what they do in the second half, we talked about this being a second half team. They really are able to just take over, right? Whether it's Cade, whether it's any of these other players, somebody steps up, and it's not just somebody, but there is a catalyst almost to it, and that person, whomever it may be, they always, distribute it out to the rest of the team, and really, get a good energy going. And that's really why I think that this team's able to have some of these comebacks and some of these resilient type of performances against some of these weaker teams. And you're right. I think maybe after a loss, you might see it, and you might see, some greatness going forward, and what they're able to do to bounce back. But I think this team's already been through so much off the court and on the court too now, that I think they're battle tested, and I think they're hungry, and I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the Big 12 this year, to be quite frank with you.
I agree. I mean, you look around the Big 12. This Big 12 is deep. Let's not get it that twisted either. This Big 12 is really good. You got Baylor ranked up there, West Virginia, Texas, OU's undefeated. All these teams are really up there. We'll forget about K-State, but all the other teams, they're up there. So many ranked teams, so many high quality opponents that are going to come, and whoever comes out of the Big 12, they're not going to be unscathed. No one's getting out of this Big 12 season unscathed.
Nope.
I didn't even mention Texas Tech. This team still have to face up with Mac McClung twice. And I think Ryan, we both remember what he did last year when he came to Stillwater.
Georgetown boy.
I think that's still fresh in
minds. He's fantastic, and but yeah, you're right. It will be a battle-tested team. Whoever ends up victorious in the Big 12 this year. It's like in previous years, it's not just Kansas anymore. Any team could do it on any given day, and maybe the OSU Cowboys might get it done. And we'll see if they also make the tournament as a result. Thank you guys for tuning in. That's all we have. We are crunched for time right now. But thank you, Chris, for joining us. First of all, let's just get you out of the way. Okay, let's give you a round of applause.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Of course, my friend. Join us anytime. And thank you all for listening and tuning in. For Ryan Novozinski and Chris Becker and Sadiq Tuma, who's over there probably recovering from eye surgery. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.